right, let's give the other stream here just a second to get up and running. Notice that it's been live for a couple seconds now, so should be able to see charts, should be able to hear me. We got about 2 minutes until the close, so we'll get to see where the market finishes up for the day. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for December 21st, 2021. Q's up 2.2%, impressive rally. SPY up 1.75, and then IWM almost 3%, 2.9 at the moment. We came into today bearish. All right, bearish on the market. We had a gap up in the morning, and then we got sold initially. Okay. So at first, for at least the start of the morning, it was not that unexpected. We had a big gap up. We were in a downtrend. We didn't really have any pivots besides Friday's high, as kind of the pivot for where we no longer are bearish. So we gapped up, we got sold. That was kind of as expected, but what wasn't expected was the rally all the way back up. So the negation of a bearish event is bullish. Okay, so we were waiting for maybe into this afternoon we would get something that would resemble a bit of a pivot here, and then that would be our line in the sand going into tomorrow. We didn't really get a very clean pivot here, and not even a pivot on a closing basis. So you can see it broke the bar by a little bit and then moved up. Okay. So even here, it's a little bit tough to say where do we draw the line. Okay. If we had come in some more, we don't need to come in too much more, then we would have a clean pivot. Okay. This, we don't really have a clean pivot. So here's kind of what we should anticipate for tomorrow, right? If we gap up and we're still at resistance, you can see it there on the hourly, you can see it on the daily. All right, if we gap up and then kind of get sold, close, that's the closing bell, and we close the gap immediately, then we'll just go with that. That'll just be like whatever the opening high is, and then we will use that, and that'll be the pivot. If we take that out, just no longer bearish. Okay. If we gap down tomorrow morning, then we'll just use today's high. That'll be easy too. Okay. If we just gap down a little bit, especially if we take out the last hourly bar's low, then we'll just use today's high. Okay. So I'm kind of waiting for some kind of pivot here. That's really what it is, why we don't have numbers here. Because we could gap up a little bit, right? And then once we come back in a little bit, then that'll be the pivot. If we gap down, then it'll just be today's high. So that's what I'm needing to see. I just need to see a little bit more of evidence of selling, and then the negation of that, we're no longer bearish, okay? Now, why am I so kind of lenient maybe with the switching to the bullish bias and giving the bearish bias kind of a little bit more time to prove themselves? It's just because location here, right, on the Qs and on the SPY. It's kind of if this, we get an inside bar, it's a pretty decent looking daily sell setup, right? So I'm anticipating that could still be the case, a sell setup, right, into a declining 20 MA here. Not a very perfect one. We spent time above, below, above. So, of course, we prefer sell setups in a well-established downtrend, but that's really the only thing I foresee that could still lead to the next leg lower, okay? And based on what we have right now. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. I really want to see something that is a meaningful pivot to use. Otherwise, I think the daily location is still pretty tough. Weekly is doing what it can to kind of negate the bearishness from the last few weeks, which is the kind of engulfing of this green bar, or what we talked about previously, which that's a bull sandwich, bears on either side, right? Okay, so the plan for tomorrow, we're waiting on us to get a pivot. should get some form of it at the open, and then we'll use that for reference. And then if we take out that pivot, then we will no longer be bearish. All right, let's go over the plays from today. So the first play that I tried today was this QNRX. Okay, QNRX, gapping up here. All right. Potentially, you know, if it gets some momentum, if it gets going, that's really what I'm looking for. I played it just as an opening breakout here. Pretty aggressive. Pretty aggressive. I put all of this together, just the opening range together. And then you can see here the volume came in, a bit of a warning sign, but I didn't really have a way to trail this. So I kind of just let it play out. So this did not work. So yeah, I was just kind of opening bar breakout. A little bit aggressive on the daily, but just, you know, potentially this gap up produces the bottom. It's that kind of thing. It's a worse version of the SPRB. Okay, so you can see the SPRB was all out downtrend and then gapped up. What I've noticed about these, if they base a little bit before they gap up, they're a little bit better than just gapping up from the downtrend. I've noticed that these follow through a little bit better. I think GRTX, yeah, didn't really give us the base, so a little bit, but then you get the gap up, right, ending the downtrend, and then worked actually much better yesterday. So what's the difference is that kind of what it did for most of last week was base, and then we played it in the morning as a breakout. So yeah, so the QNRX a little bit on the aggressive side. I don't really have a problem with it. It's just, yeah, thought it was worth a shot at the open. Kind of just, yeah, pay to play. That was really, I just want to see if this was going to get the move, and if it did, I want to be a part of it. Otherwise, it's not a perfect play. Next play, ALDX. ALDX was in this from open to close almost. Played the breakdown here, so that's about 20 minutes, 15 minutes after the open. So played the breakdown, and then just in until the end. Just didn't want to move. Just didn't want to go anywhere. So it made very little on the ALDX. I don't know, maybe like a half an hour, a third of an hour, something like that. Played it up here. It looked good all day, so there was no reason to get out. There was lots of shakeouts, but I just kept my stop at the original spot pretty much until the very end. So yeah, not too much to talk about here. Maybe tomorrow gets going. That's the gap. Yeah, I like it a lot. Still like it. Yeah, maybe gets going tomorrow. I didn't hold any overnight. Just it was a day trade, and then we'll check back tomorrow to see if there's any new setups. What ended up being the best play, though, was the XL. XL, I actually didn't even catch the best play on this, but if you were with me on the mic, we were scalping this. Nice breakdown here. That ended up being kind of nice. And then this one as well, although this one flipped fast, so kind of took away a good amount, a good chunk of what it was up pretty on that reversal there. What ended up being the best was the breakout, actually, here. And then broke out again here. So these were just scalps on this XL. So yeah, those ended up being the bigger ones. I caught these two, but the longs were probably better. So, and here's the daily on this. This is why I was, more willing to play the shorter, kind of play without hesitation. Was just daily downtrend, breaking underneath that. A little bottoming tail, but bottoming tail nonetheless. And then just looking really damaged on the larger time frames here. So, yeah, so kind of a little bit of everything here. The pro gap up, pro gap down, and then a scalp. So it's still trying not to do too much, really. Really focus on, ALDX was my favorite overall gap. I thought the only issue with the gap was that it was a little bit too big. QNRX, I think I knew this was a little bit of a lower odds play, but high reward to risk potential. So probably if there's, anything that was a lower quality trade from today, it was this QNRX. But yeah, I'm still fine with it. I think it was worth a shot. Yeah. So yeah, Qs and SPY, to recap, going into tomorrow, interesting. We are really waiting to get some kind of a pivot. If I can get some kind of pivot here, a reasonable look at one, then I'll have a new line in the sand here. Otherwise, this has just been really a grind back up, and definitely the negation of the opening bar there is more bullish leaning. So definitely less bearish than we were coming into today. But I'm gonna wait until we get a pivot to work with. Okay. All right. Hope you did well today. We'll be back at it tomorrow, and I will talk to you then. Have a good evening.